Hey, how are you? I'm so glad I got to see almost all of you today. That was awesome. I feel like it's kind of like class today. So I hope it was really helpful to you. It was to me. Every time I meet with somebody in social media, I learned something new. So that was really cool. I took a ton of notes. I don't know if you guys did too, but um, I need to look at that unsplash.com resource she gave us. So that was kind of cool. And I like the part about animated GIFs, including those and hashtags. I actually don't like hashtags, but I know that people use them. I used to use them all the time, and now I think they're just overused. Yeah, I have a friend that uses 30 hashtags. He owns a marketing firm. He uses so many hashtags, but I was like, "Ugh, that's fun." We haven't really talked about Google Analytics, so we'll talk a little bit about that. I'll give you a short little introduction. We're actually hoping to offer a social media marketing class at OHS, not this next year, but the year after that. So all that you're learning is like this much, and then if you're here in 2 years, you can take that class, which will be awesome. I like it that she explained SEO a little bit better for you. I know that's complicated, it really is. So don't feel like you need to get that perfect because I did not know that Google My Business did a lot of that for you. So that's awesome. I like that you talked about the directory cleanup. That was pretty cool. That wherever you search, it should be consistent. I knew that. Um, and we haven't really talked much about LinkedIn, I don't think. So if you took Principles of Business, you know about LinkedIn, but those of you who didn't, who skipped over it, LinkedIn is a really important resource. So I can't remember if we talked about that in this class, but if you don't have one yet, you should start one. And if you're not 16 yet, you can't yet, but it's something you'll need like the minute you get you'll need after you get out of high school. So anyway, something for you to build on right now. So today I'm going to talk about advertising design, and I'm not going to really do it justice because I think Canva does such a nice job doing it for you. To be honest with you, people who go into marketing take probably one, two, three, four advertising classes a lot with design. So what I'm giving you is just like a tiny little introduction of some basics that are kind of interesting that you might not know already. Um, so I'll talk about some of the components of an ad, and the ads that you create are going to be used for social media, but all of the basics that you'll use in social media really come from the basic of design. And not all advertisements have all of these components, but these are most of the components that a traditional ad would have. So this would be like a magazine advertisement. So most ads have a headline, which is this right here. They have some sort of an illustration, a slogan, which is right underneath here. Copy, oops, I'm sorry, slogan is right down here underneath Mercedes-Benz. Copy is can be short, but sometimes like pharmaceutical companies use a ton of copy, like a lot of words to explain what's going on. And then the logo, or sometimes they call it the signature, which is a Mercedes-Benz symbol and their name. So that's kind of the basics of an ad. What I would recommend to you is to use Canva. And what they recommend is I kind of go with that. So they don't always have copy. I think copy can be overused. If you need to educate your consumer on your product, if it's something kind of technical or complicated, then I would definitely use copy. But if it's something that's pretty basic that the customers will be able to know just based on the name of your company, your product, or the illustration, then you don't need to use copy. You also don't need a slogan. Most companies have them, but they don't always use them, and sometimes they change them. So slogan is not essential in an ad. Illustrations pretty much are essential. And the use of white space is really important. So illustration should be about 65%-ish of your ad. And that's a really important thing. And there's always exceptions to the rules to these. So I have so many resources on ad design basics. So I'm going to give you a few days actually to look at advertising design and use the resources I have, dig in deep to start designing your social media um, posts. And you can reuse, if you create a really beautiful ad, you can reuse that in all of your platforms, no problem. So this is kind of the basics of advertising, and illustration should be about 65% of the ad space. Headline should be about 10%, copy could be 20%, but again, it's optional. Logo should be 5%. So that's kind of the basics of it. And then there's a little bit of a description of what they are. So take a look at that today when you're done going through the screencast. Below, there's also some advertising designs with some of the components on them. And there's also something in an advertisement that's called lines of force. Let's see if I can get this open. So lines of force are not actually lines, but there's something in the advertisement that helps your eye go from upper left to lower right. So lines of force are used with usually some sort of product, and this um, paddle is a line of force that takes your eye from this color, the illustration, down to the logo, which is down here. So they'll do really creative things. They even like this dock kind of brings you back to this direction. So upper left to lower right, um, they use those lines of force. Even people can use lines of force or can be lines of force. So this is a part of the illustration. This guy's elbows kind of lean out, going down to this. It's a little bit harder to see with this one, but they do use lines of force in that. So just know Canva has some of that design for you as well. Um, so you can take a look at that. These are some really, really cool designs. This is just so much fun to look at. I could look at these all day. So best print ads of all time. Obviously, there's subjectivity in it. Basic ad design, print designs from Canva. Um, so take a look at these just to get yourself inspired. You see social media ads that inspire you every single day. I just Googled it, and these are some of the really clever ones that are out there. I really love kind of how things have evolved with the use of white space. So you can see this McDonald's ad. So even though this isn't white, it's red, it's considered white space. And then advertisements also have something called bleed, which is a term that we use in advertising. Bleed means the ad goes all the way to the end, that there's no white space on the outside of it. And you can't really tell in these advertisements because they're not actually in the magazine. So having something with bleed is a little bit more expensive in a magazine. If it has like a border around it, like this one, then it's a little bit cheaper to print traditionally. So I obviously haven't worked in the advertising agency industry. That's just what I know. So this one does not have bleed because it doesn't go all the way to the end. So take a look at these. They're just fun to look at. Some basic ad design information. This is just basic desktop publishing. Again, Canva kind of does it for you, but this gives you some. So take a read at this. They use different words. They use visual instead of illustration, but you can kind of see the basics of an advertisement design. This is a really older advertisement. Ogilvy is a huge advertising agency that if you were going into advertising, you'd want to work for them. It's been around forever, and they're just like one of the top agencies in the country. I think they're based out of New York. So this one talks about the same components that we talked about. This one obviously has a ton of copy because they want to educate the consumer. And then the signature logo way down here for it. And then this one is print ads from Canva, 50 ads that will inspire you that they design in Canva. Most of the things that you need are free in Canva. Don't buy any of the Canva features because you could just do it. And it's kind of cool that ad agency we talked to today uses Canva for their designs. Um, it used to be super cumbersome to use even 5 years ago, and now it's so easy. So this has a lot of really cool ads inside of it. So just make sure that you take a look at all these resources in play today. I also wanted to let you know a little bit more about lines of force. So this is an ad example. It's not the best example, but a lot of times advertisements will follow a Z or an S pattern or a backwards Z or a backwards S. So kind of starting up here with the headline, moving down through the illustration, look at how his leg actually makes that Z, and then over to the logo. You might not be able to see with my video on the lower right. So a lot of times you'll see them follow this pattern, Z or backwards Z, S or backwards S. Sometimes they're just a T pattern, but you'll see that once you start noticing it, it's like, oh my gosh, they followed that design pattern. That's kind of a classic thing that advertisers do. This is a slideshow about graphic design basics, and they do a much better job than I do with it, but it gives you a little bit of introduction to it. This is kind of more reassurance of the 5 parts of the ad. Print advertisements, this is really basic information from a text, and this is a little bit more in the S and the Z pattern, so kind of fun to look at those as well. And then a little bit more on color. So this is a slideshow I put together quite a few years ago, and it has some articles and a video on it on the psychology of color. Psychology of color and font choice are just really fun for me to talk about all the time. And color psychology is really, really important. I did make some feedback to all of you who shared your docs with me or your slides with me. If I could view them, I gave you some feedback either on your doc or in an email. If you just shared it with me after I requested access yesterday, or yeah, yesterday, then you might not have gotten feedback from me yet. So if you haven't yet, email me today and I'll give you that. I actually want to redirect you if you are off track. So color is really important, and everything that you do in advertising is really about the target audience. So you don't want to think about yourself or what's trendy. You really want to think about what the target audience wants. So this is kind of a cool video about the psychology of color. This is really basic, like what brands are using what colors, what the colors actually mean in a brand. Um, Another visual, what you're kind of thinking of in a brand if you choose these colors, and think about again your target audience. Psychology of color and logo design. I love this article as well. Shape and color and design. More resources that are current. So I did add to this as well. Um, this game, you know what? I think this game doesn't work, so just ignore that. That's totally fine. I don't need it. So that's about it. So today I want you to, I think there's one post test today. I don't know if there's any more this week, to be honest with you, but I would like you to start designing your advertisements. Come up with one creative design in Canva today. And then obviously you can go back and tweak it, and it's canva.com. And then you can start using that for your social media posts. But we'll talk about social media tomorrow or Thursday. I need to decide if I'm going to give you an extra work day. I'm a little behind. So anyway, I hope you have a great, great day and can get some sun. Sorry, it's a long. I miss you. I'll talk to you later. Bye.